Be grateful you are fortunate. Otherwise, you'd be out in the snow like this boy. Little Frank Caprio was so hurt by this that 80 years later, he wrote it word for word in his book. But one thing was true. Although Frank Caprio spent his childhood in very difficult circumstances, he was very happy with his life. Because that was the kind of upbringing they had received. The circumstances were such that on winter nights, they didn't even have a blanket to cover themselves. The milk company used to give only one blanket, and it was placed over the milk so it wouldn't freeze. At night, Frank Caprio and his brother would share that same blanket for warmth. Now, since the blanket had milk cream on it, mice would come to eat the cream, and Frank Caprio was very scared. At the age of 16, one day Frank Caprio's father put his hand on his shoulder and said, "One day you'll become a lawyer, but remember my words, don't charge fees from the poor." At that time, Frank was in high school and did many part-time jobs to make ends meet. He worked with his father delivering milk, distributed newspapers, set pins in a bowling alley, worked as a waiter in a restaurant, and even polished shoes sitting on the roadside to cover his expenses. After high school, he got admission to a college in Providence. In those days, reaching college was a big deal for a poor family. Out of his 45 cousins, Frank Caprio was the second to reach college. In his final year of college, he applied to Boston Law University, which was his dream. But studying at this university meant he would have to leave all his part-time jobs. And if he had to do that, then how would he make ends meet? He was also admitted to that university. But Frank knew very well that his parents would not be able to afford the expenses of that university. Therefore, instead of going to his preferred university, he took a teaching job during the day and studied law at another university at night. During this time, another such incident happened with Frank Caprio that he could never forget the pain of for the rest of his life. One day, on his way back from law college, a classmate gave him a lift home. Frank lived in a clapboard apartment which looked very shabby from the outside. When Frank's classmate saw his house, he said, "If you want to become a successful lawyer, you can't live in this house." At that moment, Frank felt very bad, but without replying, he just said thank you and walked away. But he never forgot this for the rest of his life. After becoming a lawyer, he also stepped into politics and once ran in the election for attorney